been just over a year since we posted our first video here, and I thought it might be good to have an update. It would be good to have an upgrade on where we are, what kind of things we've got in the pipeline, how's it all going, is it really working being off grid. It's a lovely Scottish summer day, so I thought we'll go for a walk. We'll have a look over some bits. We'll do some plants, we'll do some renewable energy, we'll do some builds, and we'll just kind of have a look around and see where we're up to. In some of my really early videos, I was talking about getting wet because it just seems to rain. Well, Scotland, it just rains kind of constantly. And my wife and I invested in these jackets that I'm wearing at the minute. This is an oilskin. I think it's by Outback. Yeah, Outback. My wife got a slightly different brand. But if you're anywhere that it's raining like this thing's just amazing. Other jackets just wet through eventually, they might last an hour, but this thing never wets through. And it's like long, like it kind of comes down past my knees, so when you're walking through the grass it kind of stops getting wet there as well. So I'm really pleased we got these. We've cut walkways through the grass, and I've always been on the side of not cutting the grass, partly because I just don't want to spend all my time cutting the grass, and partly because I'm not really in for that golf green look for lawns. And I'm so pleased you can't hear anyway because it's so big, but there's so many flowers in wild areas that I would really, really recommend, if you've got a garden, just leave a bit of it wild. Can't guarantee that in the first year it'll all come together, but there's so many flowers here. Let's have a look. This is just, the side. We've got these yellow, I'm not a flower guy, so I don't know the names for these. We've got lots of thistles which have come out with purple. These ones here look pretty spectacular. They're slightly past it now, but they were sort of star-shaped when they came out. More yellow ones. There's some blue ones around here somewhere as well. This section here has got a slightly different type of grass in it. It's slightly lighter. You can see tiny little white ones there. Bigger white ones over there. We've got this kind of, lots of, I think this is a different type of white one because it's higher in the grass. I don't know if they're called foxgloves. You see them over there? We'll go and have a look in a minute. This whole video isn't going to be about flowers, so if you're not into flowers, don't worry. We're not going to permanently go on about them. But we've got those popping up all over the place, and then we've got these over here, which I think somebody have said is orchids, and there's a lot more of them elsewhere, but and they get a bit bigger. But I don't like the look of these planted gardens that you see with all these. It just looks really artificial when you see it now. But if you just leave a little bit of your garden wild, I think you'll find it looks so much nicer. And it's good for nature as well, isn't it? Got lots of tiny trees. Constantly working this. Lots of tiny trees here where the quad bike trail is. I haven't brought it round this way for a little while, but they're all popping up where the quad bike had, made some tracks in the ground. I suppose it's a little bit like pigs that you use to reforest the ground. As the quad bike's dug up trails through the grass, it's given the seeds underneath a little bit of a go at taking hold, so that's really nice to see. I always felt like I was damaging the environment by driving it through, but actually in the tracks it seems to be some seeds that were hidden are coming through. I'm on my way to the hydropower. That's why we're going over the plants, because I've got to get over there. Ticks are a real problem this time of year because all of our land's so wild, and we've got sheep. We don't have sheep, but they're all over the place. You have to be quite careful with what you're wearing on your legs, because ticks can give you disease if they stay there too long. But once you get used to it and you understand not to walk through the really, really deep stuff, they're actually okay. I've got quite good at, I've got gaiters that I wear most of the time, and seems to collect the ticks rather than stop them getting on you. But it's that's one of the things you've got to manage, as well as the midges. So this area here is going to be the orchard. We have a few, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trees, which we got this year. They're not doing amazingly. This one here looks like it needs to be staked, although they're doing all right. So this is the test year, because we're going to have a little plum bush, Japanese plum bush my wife got. We're going to see how they do this year before we invest in any more, because we could probably fit 50, maybe a bit more in this area here. So it's the plan to, we've got Scottish varieties which will, they blossom a little later, so they're a bit more frost resistant. The idea is to make cider, and we've got some pears and stuff, so we're going to see how that grows. And we've got this large open sort of, well, it's all open, but you know, this area's got not many trees in it already, and it's relatively flat and it's not too far from the home, so this is going to be the area for that. So it's going to be interesting. I'm really hoping they're going to work. The ground's a little bit wetter, so I'm hoping they survive through, but they're the guinea pigs, and we'll see if we can't make this a nice fruit orchard. We've also got these yellow flowers here that I don't know what, if you leave it wild, it's just so much more exciting to see what comes out. We're going to have bees very soon, probably for next spring, because initially I was a bit worried that maybe we don't have enough for them to eat here, but seeing this spring all the way through, there's tons and tons, so I think we'll do all right. You just have to catch them initially at the right time, so they've got enough to eat to build their supply for the winter, because I'm not sure what they would eat during the winter. Just look, it's wet here, but when they call it the Caledonian rainforest, just look at the density of plants behind me. Like maybe 10, 20 marsh orchids, we've got the trees, we've got the ferns, we've got tons of undergrowth, I've got no idea what it is, we've got the mosses. It's just like, it really is like walking through a jungle. Right, so on to the first bit of power generation that we've got, or that we've been working through. So the hydro, I've actually had it off for most of the summer, and when we go past the solar panels I'll explain why, but let's open it up. Obviously it's on now. Actually, I'm going to open that up for a second. I don't know if you heard the pitch change there when I opened it, but the reason I opened it up is because we still have that silt issue. It's not bad enough for me to do anything about yet. As I've said in other videos, we're going to be upgrading or changing this slightly in the future. Not because it's not doing well, just because I feel like there's a bit more to be got from it. So I haven't changed any nozzles. Some people over the winter change the nozzles for a smaller nozzle because there's less water. I haven't, because we've been working on other projects and we've got the variable nozzle type. So what I've actually been doing is we've got that line off completely. I haven't had that on the whole summer. It's a slightly lower flow, that one, so the stream, what happens is the intake, if it's a bit lower and there's a bit less, when you turn this on it starts to gulp air, so that one doesn't have enough flow to really produce much power. And when you produce less power with this, the nozzle is tighter, which means that the silt clogs it quicker, so it just means it's just not worth turning that one on during the winter. And we don't need the power anyway, we're generating way more than we need. And then this side, I've been turning it down to about half. So we've had between 200 and 300 watts continuously when this is running, which today it will be running. We'll probably get 300 watts out of it today. And then when it starts to dry up a bit, I just turn it down and then turn it off completely, because if there's any sun, we'll go over the solar in a bit, we just don't need this going, and it is noisy. If you watched our noise reduction video on this, it's worked enough to mean that when we're on 250 watts, the noise isn't really annoying. This is 750, 800 watts when it's going fully in the winter, so that makes a bit more noise, which means that this isn't quite up to that, and we'll be redoing it soon based on some of your suggestions from the comments of that video. But yeah, the hydro, I mean, I'm very pleased with it, but I'm also very pleased with the solar, because we just haven't had to have it on for as much as we thought we might. And I wasn't sure how this would work, because this is our first year here, so I wasn't sure whether we'd need this on all the time or whether it would work at all in the summer. So I've made a little pen mark on the nozzle. Just to remind me where 250, 300 watts is, because you just kind of end up guessing a bit when you're turning it on and off. But days like today, we've had quite an overcast week, and the solar isn't that great, and as you can see, the rain, we've got decent water levels at the minute, so that's why I've got that on at the moment. So it's doing very well. I'm very pleased with it, but I'm also very pleased and actually far more surprised with the solar than I was. If you watched our previous videos, you'll know I wasn't all that happy with the solar. We'll go back over the river this time instead of all the way around the side. See all these mushrooms that have come out on this log? We'll go over mushrooms in a bit because we've got some plans for that, but it's just so nice. I can't tell you how nice it is to come wandering around and just be surprised by the plants instead of knowing you've planted it and you're like, oh, it's that, I know I've done it. It's just so nice to, you know, be taken aback and be like, whoa, look at that, because it's wild, so you don't know what's coming out. While we're still on the topic of plants, because I think we haven't quite finished that, we planted two different species, 2 of each, rhubarb up near the house, because I wanted to see how they worked here. We've got a variety called champagne and another one that's something similar, which comes out a little later. You only got to kind of frost-proof everything a bit better here, not only because we're in the Highlands of Scotland, but we're very high, so we're the highest in this area. We're the only house right on the top. If you go either way, it gets kind of 2 degrees warmer only a mile away, because we kind of go down, so our specific spot is really quite cold, which I really like because I'm not that keen on hot summers. So we don't get hot summers up here, but it does mean we get quite cold winters. So this is our solar, and we didn't have a great time with it in the winter. I was surprised at how badly it did, actually. I thought that solar I knew it fluctuated between the seasons, but I didn't realise how much. And I think it's largely down to the angle of the panels, because it's optimised for the summer. Perhaps I'd be better off optimising for the winter if that's when I really need a bit more, but then the hydro does well, so it's fine as it is. We've got 6 panels, which I don't think is very many. They're 560 watts each, for about 180 quid each, and I thought it would do a bit better. But in the winter, we get maybe 50, 100 watts coming in, which is really bad. But again, if you've watched our other videos, you know we're in a glen, so we get very limited sunlight in the winter. But in the summer, this thing pushes out 4 kilowatts. like which is really good. And I've got another capacity for 2 more panels within our inverter. So I've got one up there and I've got a cracked one that I swapped off. So I'm going to add one more just to boost it a bit more for the winter. But these are doing really well, which just means that we're dumping so much power, because you have to dump with hydro, that I'm really having to, that's why I've turned the hydro off, because it's noisy and it, you know, there's wear and tear on the bearings and things, and I feel like the Glen could do with the water if I don't want to be taking any more from the stream than I have to. So if I don't need that power, I just turn it off. So, and they're not optimum, they're not positioned brilliantly. We're in a glen and they've just been absolutely killing it during the summer. So I'm really, really pleased with the solar. We'll just have to see how it runs through the next winter. Maybe I'll try and optimize it a bit. I have got a project that I was planning on doing an adjustable angle solar panel mount, but we'll have to see if we can get to that at some point in the future. Now this is a topic that I've actually been avoiding in most of the other ones. This is our composting toilet, and we've done a video installing it. It's an Aquatron composting toilet, and it separates the liquids from the solids, and we've had it installed now, I think it's just slightly less than a year. It has 4 chambers on the bottom, and you have to kind of rotate it to allow the off chambers to compost. And we're on the final chamber, and up until this point I had no idea how it was going to do. I didn't know if it was going to just so much water on this lens. Didn't know if it was going to be lasting very long. I didn't know if the off chambers were going to compost, because you're supposed to have that thing indoors. I don't have it indoors. It's not really installed as it's supposed to be. I have had some problems, but that wasn't down to the Aquatron. That was because I got the angles wrong on the inlet, so the pipes blocked, but it wasn't the Aquatron that blocked, it was the pipes. But I rotated it a couple of weeks ago onto the final chamber, which meant I could see the first chamber, and it really has. I mean, it's disgusting, but I'm going to talk about it just in case you want to look at this kind of thing. So the 4 chambers, when they get full, you rotate it round, and then when it came back to the 4th chamber, it was maybe less than a quarter full. So it had not only composted, but it had also, just gonna have to deal with that. Not only had it composted, but it had also compressed right down. And it hasn't quite finished yet, because we haven't gone through the full cycle. When the last chamber's full, I'm going to have to then clean out the 4th chamber. But it really does start to look like soil. It's really quite amazing. Like, I thought it was going to be really disgusting, but when you look in, you're like, oh, it's it has changed from, you know, what you know is in there to something that doesn't seem too horrible to handle. So I would recommend it. I haven't yet done the cleaning out job, so right now I'm pleased, but until I have to remove it, but we did it because we didn't want to have to pay. The whole off-grid thing for us here is that we don't want to have to, if we're not paying energy costs to utility companies, we don't want to pay to have you know, a septic tank empty, because it just, if you can do it for free, then for us that's the way we wanted to do it. So, you know, you don't have to pay for any removal, but it does mean you have to remove it yourself. The berries, or the berry bush borders, I think I called it, we moved some here. The raspberries have got the first raspberries on them. We've got different varieties that fruit slightly different times, so they're probably the earlier ones. The blueberries are doing okay. There's no blueberries on them, but it seems like it's quite hard to see because they've kind of been smothered a bit by all the grass, but those are the blueberries just there, or some of them. There's another bush over there. There's another one just here, and then the raspberries are there, and then there. Here's our first raspberry. One looks like it's already been eaten actually, the other one is just there. Let's see if we can get it. It looks like it might even be edible. No, it's still a bit well attached. That one's looks like it's, yeah, so we'll have to see. I know you can cover them to stop the birds getting it, but I'm not really in it for that type of thing. I want it to grow wild and see what happens. The Defender, my review on that was a little bit meh, you know, but I love it now. We actually put it up for sale for a short period of time, but I had to put it back down because I just couldn't couldn't separate from it. It's just such a useful thing, and my boy loves playing in it. I replaced the turbo, master cylinder on the clutch, and lots of other bits, and now it's working a lot better, so I'm kind of getting on with it a bit more than I was when we first got it. You know, it's June. This is the weather. Is that no? It's actually July. July. Wow. So the seeds that we've got growing at the minute, we'll go over the seeds and the water supply. We have quite a lot planted here. We have chestnut. We have so we've got what's that, 2 or 3 oak acorns have come through. I'm not sure what these are. I'm hoping they're aspen. We've got a lot of aspen planted here, and if you know how to get aspen seeds started, because I'm hoping to reforest a lot of this with aspen, because it's quite there's not very many in Scotland, but it's supposed to be native, and I'd quite like there to be a few of those trees here, but can't seem to get them to come through. We've got plum trees, they haven't come through yet. Chestnut, I think I've said chestnut already. So yeah, I'm hoping they're going to come through a bit more, but then the summer hasn't really taken on yet. We had a really big heat wave for a week, and then the rest has all been like today. So the water, actually I did a bit of an upgrade on the water, but I didn't show you. We've got four inlet tanks, so quite a few people have said why 4, why not just get a massive one? And I'm going to stick to my guns on this, because if you get a huge one, you've got one huge problem when it goes wrong. If you've got 4 smaller ones, you've got one smaller problem when one goes wrong. And I don't think all 4 are likely to go wrong at the same time. You might have main pump system problems, but I find it's actually been pretty good with 4 separate barrels. We do have a problem with freezing in the winter, but yeah, they've actually been doing pretty well. I had a problem with the float valve, so what I've done is, you've probably seen it, well, maybe you haven't seen it, I don't know. I did a short on adding a standpipe to the inlet, because we were having a problem with the frequency, like the kind of flow pressure. So I got a standpipe, and I put it up the top to allow any of the air to get out. I've put a pump just here because of any problems. So every time something's gone wrong and I needed to pump the water to try and pull it through, I thought I would just kind of install the pump there. So there's a bit of a pump that we've put there permanently. And then I moved the float valve from the bottom. It was right down there at the, that's where the float valve was originally. And I moved it to the top just because what I thought was that the pressure of all this water was pushing down on where the water was coming out. And if the pressure from the top of the hill wasn't really high, I felt like maybe it was slowing down the speed at which it comes in. I think the main upgrade that made the most difference was the standpipe. I don't know why I didn't put it in initially, but you learn, don't you, as you do this kind of stuff. Since then, I've actually noticed the silt in the bottom of the tanks is a lot less, so I don't know whether the float valve being moved to the top has helped with the silt. I don't know whether the standpipe has helped with the silt. But it just seems to be a lot cleaner with the water coming in, so that's really quite good. I mean, it's a side, what do you call it, added bonus, but yeah, the water's doing very, very, very well. It's like before we would have it run down a little bit whilst the water was kind of trickling in. Now it's almost never brim full. So, and we've had dry times here as well, but you don't need very much water coming in if it's constantly filling, because the float valve, as soon as we flush a toilet or run a tap or something, immediately lets the water in. So even if there's a tiny amount of water coming in up there, within an hour it'll top that up. So as long as you're not running water all day, which, I mean, who is, unless you've got some commercial purpose for it, it just keeps them full. So that little change has made a really big difference. It's getting dry. So you see how wet it was out there, and my shirt, which would show any water, I've got a couple of drips because I just took my coat off, but I'm absolutely bone dry, apart from my hands. So those things really do work well. I treated my hat in this stuff, which I use for my boots. I'm actually wearing my wellies right now, but when you're in this kind of weather, you really want stuff to be waterproof, and also you don't want your leather to crack. So I got both of these to test them out, and this one I've been using for ages, and it's this really kind of thick, it almost looks like it could have been, because it looks like an old product, could have been made from whale blubber or something, but obviously it's not, because it's a modern day, but it's really thick, really looks like car grease or something, so that does a pretty good job. I put it on about every week. Not so much to keep it waterproof, although it does keep it waterproof, but it keeps the leather nice and supple and just stops them cracking when they get wet. It does keep your boots waterproof, but they're not permanently waterproof. And this one I used, I bought it at the same time, and I used it once. It's a harder product. What's it smell like? Yeah, they both smell lovely. I mean, that one's got beeswax in it because it smells like that. That one seemed to be a finer product, but I've only used it once, and it did keep it waterproof the next day, so it was pretty good. But I haven't used it, although I bought them at the same time. I just kind of stuck with that for a while. But you're never going to get boots completely waterproof, because then you've got the problem of the leather breathing. So it's kind of like you just got to try and keep up with keeping them coated, and just look after the leather, because especially boots, proper boots are expensive, aren't they? A few £100. If you want boots to last, you buy cheaper ones, but they're going to fail you. Diesel clothes heater, doing phenomenally. Like, I kind of set that up and left it. We just, we've got enough electricity now, haven't we? So we don't have to worry too much about the quantity of power. So we do turn the electric, because it's on an electric clothes dryer, so we do turn that on when we've got more power. But it's with the humidity here, you can see it's just quite difficult to dry clothes, and tumble dryers often just kind of ruin the clothes. So we've got the diesel dryer there. I have got an exhaust adapter that's going to go through that wall to exhaust it out, but if you've watched other videos, you know I'm working on the office, and we're midway through tidying this place up, so that's why I haven't quite finished the utility room. The diesel heater for the caravan, which is a Max Peeling Rods one, is excellent. It was 150 quid, and it's just doing superbly. We do have to turn it on even though we're in the summer, because it's only about 10 degrees here at the minute, and at night it's a bit cooler. So we do have that on, which, yeah, I mean, Highlands of Scotland. The inverter, not a lot to say about the inverter. We'll see what we're putting in. Yeah, 320 watts from when I turned that just then. So, and the hydro is 323 watts, and the solar is putting at 414 watts for the conditions outside. So the summer, we're doing well. I'm going to show you the app in a bit, because it tells you how much money the electricity you've produced is worth, and I haven't checked that for ages because we've just done our internet upgrade. So that's going to be, we're going to have a look at that together. You've all seen me working on the office, but I've taken a pause from it in the meantime, because I don't want to show you too much of there, but there's furniture in it, and we've got stuff in there now. But I've taken a pause because I need a space to build the stairs, and without the workshop, it's just, you see the weather right now, if I'm doing any finer work, I really need somewhere to put it together. So I've been focusing on clearing out the workshop and trying to fit this out to be able to do some work in here. So if you've seen our other videos, I mean, it's immensely tidier. Let's just go back here so you can see it. So we've got all of our, bit more clearer space. That's our furniture storage, quad bikes down there. We've got tools and stuff. So we're working on this at the moment, to try and get things, just so we can do stuff. I've got lights that I'm going to hang up here because we can't see anything at the minute. Got some sockets all ready to go. So this is what I've been focusing my time on mostly. What else we got? Internet. So we had the 4G internet. You see our video that we decided to leave Starlink, and we got 4G internet, and it's doing amazingly. It's I was kind of thinking we might have dropouts, especially in weather like today. Like, will it keep up with Starlink? But way better. Third of the cost, if not a quarter of the cost per month, and just flawless. Haven't had any outages, whereas with Starlink you kind of would. So yeah, it's been doing very well. And our neighbour down the road has asked me to have a look at his internet, so we've been installing the same kind of system for him, only it's a bed and breakfast, so we've had to install the 4G internet plus the access points in all the rooms. So I'll take you along to show you that install once we've got there. But his is doing amazingly as well. His speeds are really high, so I'd have to say 4G internet is probably I don't know if it wasn't that good in the past, but it is pretty good now. Perhaps because we're in the Highlands and all the masts are on top of the hills, it's actually pretty good internet because it kind of spreads it around better. Where if you're in the land's a bit flatter, the internet can't be sent around so well. Right, I've got my wife's phone, so let's have a look at how much electricity we have generated. Okay, so I thought it didn't really make that much sense because when I last checked this before we connected it, it was almost at 1,500 quid. So I think what's happened is if you don't leave the Wi-Fi tracking, because we changed our internet, so I didn't connect the inverter to the internet, which means that it hasn't been tracking since we've turned it off. So we've got £1,526 generated so far this year, which is 6 months, but we've had it off for about a month or two. So as in we've had the tracking off. Says we've charged 574.6 kilowatt hours since turning it on. So it's doing pretty well. There's probably a bit more on that because, as I said, I've turned it off for a little while. So I've put my coat back on because clearly I haven't had enough of getting soaked. I also don't want to show you the office until it's done, so it's not really good filming in the dark at the minute. So we're outside again. We'll go over what we've got coming up with the different sections of small holding. So we've got our rhubarb over here that I've talked about earlier. One there, one there, one over there, and then this one, we got another one over there, but it's been destroyed by slugs. I could work on trying to protect them, but I'm really taking the angle that I don't want to get too precious about the plants. I want them to exist in the wild. You know, I don't want to start dealing with having to put nets and stuff over them. So I really want to see if they survive, and if they survive, they'll be pretty hardy, won't they? So that's my philosophy so far. I might change my mind in the future, but I'd really like things to just, you know, integrate rather than me messing about too much. So while we're on that topic, we'll go over the plans for our small holdings, so animals and things like that. What have we got coming up in the next year, or maybe 2 years, because there's an awful lot of projects, aren't there? So I've already mentioned the bees. The bees are really important to me. I think they're really they do a really good job, and there are bees around here, but I feel like there could be more. So we're going to have honeybees. I think they're going to really do everything here, a bit of a service, pollinating, and especially because we've got our fruit trees that we're planting. And then I've got an interest in growing mushrooms. I haven't done it on a scale for, I've done some small fruiting blocks myself, but I haven't done anything to scale so far, and I'm considering opening a small sort of farm shop, selling some of the produce. That's the end goal, if you like, is selling some of the produce we do here. We're not planning on producing a lot, we're planning on producing for us, but we're going to be, with the excess, it'd be nice if we can try and sell some of that. But I have the philosophy of having a bit of I like each element to feed into the rest. So, for example, the mushroom blocks, I've discovered you can sell them to pigs, you can feed them to pigs. So we're going to, I'm not going to go all the way down there because it's all a bit overgrown, but this area here is the grove. I'll go over what we're going to do here in a minute. And then there's a small field down there which we're going to put pigs in, and we're going to put chickens in. We're going to raise some meat birds, and we're going to raise some egg-laying varieties. We'll have to see what we can get locally. There are some chicken farms that sell them around here, but you can't get all of the species. So we'll just get some meat birds, raise them up, butcher them, put them in the freezer and keep them for the year. And then the chicken laying eggs we're going to keep because they lay eggs. But I like the idea of everything sort of like a circular, I don't know if you call it a circular economy with farming, but the mushroom blocks, you grow mushrooms on like grain and wood pellets, which sounds an awful lot like pig feed, doesn't it, or animal feed. So I googled it, and you can feed the mycelium. It grows in these bags. You take the mushrooms off, you grow the mushrooms, and then you can take those bags and feed them to the animals. So I'm planning on feeding up the pigs with that, plus some other food. We're probably gonna have to supplement them, as well as the chickens, and then we can butcher them every year. and then you've got kind of free pork, haven't you, because you're able to feed them off something you were going to have to buy anyway. There is an input initially, but I'm able to kind of move that input down the line and get more off it. So that's what we're going to be doing as far as livestock. The grove area here, I'm going to dig a fairly large pond, not quite lake, but pond, and we're going to grow trout in that. I have heard that you can use mushroom mycelium to start an insect farm to feed the trout and the chickens, but I'm not all that sure I want to get into insect farming. So there is that to look at in the future, but I just don't know if I'm quite ready for that level of commitment. So I'm also going to dig that. So it's quite a large project. So there's that. We've got a large greenhouse that we're going to be making out of all the timber you see just here that's all fallen down. I'm going to do that as a joinery project. So we're going to make a large wooden framed greenhouse, I suppose, pitch roof, rather than polytunnels. And that's going to be my joinery project, so I can test out our skills with milling and joinery before we start the house, because I think it'd be good to practice somewhere. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be making a certain section of that for hydroponics, because I'd like to explore hydroponics. There's not very much sunlight here, so I think growing vegetables is going to be a bit more challenging for us. So if we can try and boost that with a bit of extra light in the morning and the evening, but that's quite a complex project. So we've got that coming as well. As far as the renewables go, we've got some big projects coming up. So I've been designing a vertical axis wind turbine over the past month or so, and I'm going to try and put a variable prop on it so that you can change the power per wind speed. So that's going to be a fair series that we're going to put out. Still working on the design at the minute. It's going to go up the top of the hill, and we're going to be making the generation side of it ourselves, like wrapping the coils, making all of the gearboxes. So that's quite a big project. I've also got a water wheel and I forgot what you call it. There's like a snail shell shaped turbine that kind of funnels the water in a spiral, and then you've got the turbine in the middle which looks a bit like a boat propeller. I'm going to try those two projects down there because there's a really nice place for it. And then I've got a 45-degree angled water wheel which we're going to try on the river as well. So we've got quite a few renewable projects. They're all in the design stages. The wind turbine's one of the next projects. It's quite complex. I'm doing a lot of CAD drawing on it to try and get it all working. So that one will be coming out soon. I thought I should just add this bit in because I suppose it's relevant. I think I'm going to do a whole video on it, but our base power usage is 190 watts, and it goes up to about 220 watts because the fridge is cooled down. So our kind of base level use is about, let's say, 200 watts. So why are we going to be doing new renewable projects if you hear my boy calling me in the background. He's just learned to say daddy. Now that's all he says. He's in the top of the office. I've locked him up there because we've got the baby crying in the caravan. So why more renewable power if we've already got more than we need and we're dumping it into heating the workshop? It's because we've got all the hydroponic projects, so we are going to need more power in the future. We've got the lights that we're going to need for growing the mushrooms. We've got the lights and the pumps and things we're going to need for the hydroponics. So although we've got a very low power usage at the minute, I would like the ability to do a bit more. And if we have chickens and we're going to be rearing them and we need some heat lamps, I just want the flexibility to be able to do that without power being such a limit. So that's why so many renewable projects coming up, even though we've got more power than we need right now. I've put the house mostly on hold for now because of all these other projects. I'm working on the design in my head, but I tend to find with house design it's better to leave it. You sort of do a stage of design and then you walk away from it for 6 months, and things tend to mature in your mind. You get a kind of better sense of what you might need. And we've only been here a year, so I don't want to go and overdo, rush the design. And for example, we've already decided we need a fairly big wet boot room, obviously because it's wet all the time, we get muddy. So there's kind of stuff like that will evolve as you decide, your needs in a place like this. So the house, I will be bringing you along with it, but I haven't been progressing much further with the planning permission for that. The next videos, the office is you know, mostly there. We're actually using it at the minute. The games room upstairs, my son and I are watching TV up there. It's really nice and cozy. But to get the stairs done, I need the workshop done. So I'm working on the workshop now. So that might be a video. We've got the midge video. What's a midge and its motivations. Gonna put that one out soon as well. I'm probably going to take you along with the hotel bed and breakfast to show you the internet system we've set up there, because that's interesting. I did wonder if you can, you know, can you really be on 4G internet, cellular internet for a hotel with, he's only got two suites at the minute, but there's 4 or 5 suites. No, he's got 3, and there's 4 or 5 suites in total. So, and it worked. So we'll take you along with that as well. There we go. 1 year off grid in the Highlands of Scotland. Even when it's raining, I'm happy to be here. If you'd like to come join us in the next ones, be nice to have you here. We'll see you then.